Hey everybody! It is July 10th. It's a Monday. We took a short little break. That's going to happen every once in a while because we are elder commenters on YouTube. No. My name is Anthony Pago. I'm from Oklahoma City. Hopefully some of you know me by now, but if you're new, welcome to the club. Today we're going to talk a little bit about Putin and the Wagner Group. You can say Wagner Group. I think it doesn't really matter much since everybody kind of argues over how to pronounce it when you're not part of their group. And then this is Rodney. Rodney, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Rodney Hubbard. I'm here in Baltimore, Maryland. Yeah, Pago and I have known each other over 15 years, so we decided to do this podcast and just drill down on everything American, politically, and otherwise.
And I understand that some people might be saying like, "Oh, Putin's not American." Okay, no, he's not. The Wagner Group is not American. No, no, they're not. But they do affect our world greatly more than a lot of other people and groups do today, especially with what's going on in current world events. And the purpose of American Micro is not necessarily to talk specifically about physical locations in America, but about all things American. And we just can't ignore stuff like Ukraine and Putin and Wagner and all that, and feel right about ourselves. So with that in mind, we've got, okay, so yeah, this is the American Micro Podcast. I'm sure if you found this, you already knew that. Um, what, Rodney, you said you've done a deep dive, so let's just jump off on what are some of the more interesting things, or do you want to just like kind of explain what the Wagner Group is and why they relate to Putin and
Well,
Ukraine?
what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with Vladimir Putin, and then I'm going to go into the Wagner Group. So, because I mean, before we even knew what the Wagner Group was, there was always Vladimir Putin, right? I mean, he's been here 20 some odd years. So so Vladimir Putin, he is the current president of Russia, and he's had what I would call a very complex and influential political career. And just here's basically an overview of his power, of his rise to power. So, in his early life, Vladimir Putin was born in October of '52 in Leningrad, Russia, which is now St. Petersburg, Soviet Union. He grew up in a working class family and showed, believe it or not, this is going to blow your mind. He showed a lot of interest in martial arts,
Yeah.
okay, and intelligence work from an early age. So his father was a conscript in the Soviet Navy during World War II, and I'm pretty sure this influenced Putin's career choices, down the line. So in 1975, he becomes a member of the KGB. This is when he starts his career. He graduated from Leningrad State University with a degree in law, and afterward he joined the Soviet Union secret agency, the KGB. Okay, Committee for the State Security. So Putin was stationed in Dresden, East Germany, before the wall fell. Okay, where he served as a foreign intelligence officer for 5 years, and this experience allowed him to, have or better yet, just gain valuable insights into the workings of intelligence agencies and develop a network of contacts. So, following the collapse of the Soviet Union in '91, he returns to Russia to enter politics, and in '96 he moves to Moscow, serves in various positions with Russian government, including deputy mayor of the city. His performance in these roles caught the attention of President Boris Yeltsin, who appointed him as director of Federal Security Service, that's the FSB, the successor to the KGB in 1998. So he was also appointed to prime minister in August of '99. And believe it or not, Yeltsin dismissed his prime minister, Sergei Stepashin, and appointed Putin as his successor. And Putin's appointment came as a surprise to many, as he had little political experience and was relatively unknown on the national stage. However, his background in security services was received with a lot of like people liked it. He had strong leadership qualities, and that appealed to Yeltsin. So um, he became the acting president after Yeltsin's health deteriorated in 1999. After Yeltsin resigned, making Putin the acting president of Russia, and Putin used this interim period to consolidate power and gain public support. He implemented various economic and administrative reforms, positioning himself to be basically the strong man, or use his strength in Russia. And so in March of 2000, he ran for president on his own right, won by 53%, and his campaign focused on national security and combating corruption. Wow, really, really, really bad. Really, really. Okay, all right. Anyways, so he was reelected in 2004 and in 2012, and the bottom line is, or I should say, what's important to note is that Putin's rise to power is an extremely complex and extremely contested one, with differing perspectives and interpretations that you and I and anyone else will never ever dream of knowing. Okay, just from just from the research that we do. Okay, but other than that, the overview. The reason I wanted to go through this overview is because it provides a general outline into his trajectory. So now we could go through the consolidation of control. We could go through political party formations and all that stuff. But what I want to touch on is his affiliation with oligarchs, which is really, really important. It's a very complex one, and it's always evolving. It's always been evolving throughout his presidency. Oligarchs are individuals who amassed a significant amount of wealth and power during the privatization process that took place in Russia in the 1990s. Basically, what they call Russian democracy. Okay, so and there's all these people made a lot of money. He cracked down on the oligarchs, and they really haven't. They've resented him ever since, because he wanted to bring back influence. He wanted to bring back key industries back to state control, and oligarchs were like, "No, dude, we want to make money," and so there's so much that he's done to consolidate power. He implemented measures to increase state control over strategic sectors of the economy. The government regained control over key industries, including energy, media, telecommunications. So, I mean, basically, the bottom line is he's a strong man. That's his whole deal. So, knowing that, okay, the Wagner Group is a private military company. Basically, I guess the three letters that they use is the PMC. It's based in Russia, and it gained significant attention and notoriety for its involvement in various conflicts and operations throughout the world. So here's a crazy thing, dude. Okay, so under this guy Dmitry Yutkin, I want to get to this real quick because I don't want to. Okay, yeah, right here. So check this out, bro. So the Wagner Group has been involved in several military operations, primarily in support of Russian interests. It has been linked to deployments in the Ukraine, of course, Syria, Libya, Central Africa, Sudan, and I mean, this guy's been everywhere. So if you just think he's just doing this thing in the Ukraine, I'm sure he's just like well, they're mercenaries. So what do mercenaries do? They make money, and how do they make money? They go to the despots of the world. So, long story short, a lot of allegations with involving the Wagner Group, especially in Ukraine and in Syria, and their mercenary status. and their involvement in African countries. So there you have it.
Yeah, I'd like to like touch in a few bits of knowledge there, just stuff that I've learned. For anybody who's not familiar with like how oligarchy and stuff works, and what particularly the Wagner Group is doing, we I want to be careful here. We kind of have analogous versions of oligarchs in the United States. If I can just kind of give you an analogy, I mean the people, not you, Rodney, but like like a company that's run by a person, or well, yeah, we want to do an analogy. So let's say we have a person who decides to use their wealth to start a company, and then they start amassing more and more wealth by buying up other companies, and they use their political alignments, their friends, basically, their political friends, their rich friends, to take over, kind of hostile take over other industries, or to be given them through kind of political like favors and rulings and stuff. That's basically how an oligarch like functions or exists or becomes built. During big transitions, when a country has an uprising, a revolution, it's pretty common to get rid of the old oligarchy because they're a threat to your stabilizing power when you're newly taking something over. So that explains why Putin, consolidated power away from some of those oligarchs, because these guys, they have the money to pay for hire, ex-soldiers and criminals and stuff, anybody who wants to kill for money. And they can amass an army and gain power. And you don't necessarily have to have the biggest army or military power in a nation to be a threat to the current and particularly new leader. So that's part of why the oligarchs are an interesting kind of function, and it happens here in the United States and other developed countries too, where you will get people who become very powerful, and then somebody new comes in, and they want to at least reduce the amount of power that, or perceived power that person has, by kind of like bringing them down a notch, or even doing nefarious stuff that gets them in legal trouble, or legal troubles like removes their power. They get removed from their corporations and it gets taken over by somebody more friendly, and da 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 da. That's kind of the idea behind the oligarchy. The Wagner Group, like you said, there is like a is paramilitary the word, but like a paid private military type group. They so they used to be pretty small. I think it was like 5,000 people or something like that, and they just blossomed over the Ukraine ordeal because they needed more people, because they're spread thin, like you were mentioning. They're all over the place. Why are they spread thin? Because they're doing kind of like a mafiosa type thing, where they're going to these different countries, and they're finding despots in all of these crazy, chaotic regions, where they can find corruption, or they can encourage corruption and install leaders that are friendly or advantageous to Russian interests. And they will, while they're doing this, to do favors for these people. Hey, we'll kill the people you need killed in order to maintain power in this region. They'll demand in return things like certain portions of shares in like gold mines, particularly. That's what the Wagner Group is interested in, are resources like that are very raw and worth a lot, and they can move around instead of moving currency like on the markets and stuff, where it's traceable or stoppable, or you can collect it if you're opposing nations, freeze funds and stuff like that, as we had happen during the Ukraine invasion with a lot of Russian interests and stuff from oligarchs. We took away a lot of their like yachts and their bank accounts that were sitting offshore and stuff like that. We froze Russian money markets so they couldn't move stuff in and out. So that's kind of a rundown on like how like the oligarchs connect to like the Wagner Group. It seems like the Wagner Group is less its own thing and more actually like it was secretly state controlled or state approved and kind of like run. They always deny that the Wagner Group was a part of their thing. And here's why they did that. It gives plausible deniability, so that when they cause chaos abroad or murder people, they can be like, hey, we didn't do that as Russia. This wasn't our assassination or whatever. And more particularly, when Russians die during skirmishes abroad or whatever from like the Wagner Group's activities, they get to say we didn't lose any Russian troops, or rather there can be no accusation of Russian public dying through state-sponsored actions. So, there's no like turning against Putin at home because there's Russians dying with his actions abroad. But with this whole like Prigozhin like ordeal and things transitioning, they've had to kind of admit that the Wagner Group is at least somewhat related to or able to be more controlled by Putin than we suspected. And
Well, I mean, and they marched halfway, like almost to the steps of Moscow. So
yeah, there's this confusing thing where we don't know, we just don't understand. They moved their way from different regions like Sudan, and I think some from Africa are just now moving their way up into like Ukraine and maybe Russia, but probably Ukraine, or just closer to it. Um, yeah, they were able to march into Russia and keep moving towards Moscow, and there was basically no fight, which was super confusing and opened up a can of worms on how strong is Putin really, because the security forces for the Russian, security system should be able to stop an invading force, even if it's a domestic invading force that's trying to mess stuff up through kind of an attempted coup or whatever. But then there's like this like $100 million payoff or return of
yeah,
money to
and gold
Prigozhin
and gold.
and gold. Yeah, there was gold and there was like weapons, like personal weapons. Yeah, Prigozhin had like a personal weapons like stash that became under the control of the Russians, along with a lot of the military force like armory. And whenever they didn't murder him when he came back to Russia and back down, and they made some deal or something. They returned the money and gave him some gold and gave him some of his personal like weapons back. I'm just picturing like he's got like these gold-plated guns that he likes a lot and some swords that he was gifted at some point, and he's
Yeah.
like, I need those back, man. It doesn't seem like it was like all these anti-aircraft like missile systems or anything like that. But I don't know. I mean, we don't have enough information inside Russia to have the full story, and that's where a lot of it becomes murky, and all we can do is guess at this stuff, like beyond just our lack of knowledge, because it's such a complex nation state and series of interconnected wars, or just like geopolitical
Well,
problems.
if you look at Russia, just from the czars to Lenin to Marx, from that from the czars of Russia, Rasputin, and um, World War, well, the World Wars, and the Cold Wars. I mean, they've always been the country. It's an old nation state, but it's always been in serious flux from what I can remember as a kid to growing up in Alaska, and um, I hear something in the background.
Yeah, there's a helicopter flying overhead right now. We've got like a lot of crime in Oklahoma City in this area lately.
What?
And there's what do you call them? Ghetto birds, I think is the
Yeah,
nickname for them.
ghetto birds.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on right now. And Mucky is chewing on a bone, so that might be
Yeah,
constant.
that's what it was. Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
she's
So,
got.
hold on. And I don't mean to get off topic, but what's up with the ghetto birds and the crime?
I mean, I feel like a lot of cities are dealing with homelessness and
Right.
increase in rent and stagnant wages for a lot of industries. Some industries are going up by like a couple percentage points or whatever, but we have had a blossoming of homelessness, not just because of that, but it's been going on for decades because our wonderful governor has removed, and some of our local politicians have removed some of the help that existed in the city, in the center of the city, for homelessness and drug addiction, and kids, are getting kicked out and da 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 da. And they push out centers elsewhere. They say we're replacing it with this center here and there, but that doesn't really help the people in the center. And I'm close to the center, and so we still have people here in the center who now have no place to go. And so now there's like little encampments of stuff blossoming in different places because they're not going to move elsewhere. Plus, a lot of these places, you don't have the capacity to keep them overnight. They can't take the time to travel like day in, day out and hope for a bed and stuff like that. So there's a lot of like crazy like crime going on, just general theft of lawnmowers being carted down the street like in front of me. Like I'd catch them on my camera and stuff. A neighbor had his really big air compressor just like carted down in the middle of the day, just stuff like that. Yeah. Okay. So back to like Prigozhin and
sorry about that. Yeah, that's just crazy. But anyways, so yeah, I mean, yeah, Russia in a state of flux always. Like the Cold War, I remember as a kid. So we lived in Alaska, right across the Bering Strait from. There's Russia, there's Alaska. And we'd always do these drills about getting under your desk, and because of the bomb, when the time comes, and the dude, it was. So what was that? 1964. World War II was over 20 years before. There's just 20 years, dude. Then you had, the McCarthy era of communism, the Red Scare, and then you had the Korean War, where China, I don't know, I forgot what parallel it is, but that's why there's North Korea and South Korea. Okay, mm-hmm. So the communists were really trying to take advantage of what happened in World War II when Russia. I mean, honestly, bro, Russia could have kept going. They totally could have taken over Germany, France. They could have run all the way to the freaking Atlantic Ocean, dog.
Yeah, they easily could have had the German Empire. There was a long stretch where they made some poor decisions, but revolution, of course, comes with new power and new decisions, and sometimes poor decisions are made. And thank God in some instances, and in some instances it didn't turn out for the better for like democratic, free capitalism thinking type nations. An interesting piece of news that just came across a couple hours ago was that Turkey, is it Erdogan?
Aragon.
Eric, however you say his name, Erdogan.
Yeah.
He finally acquiesced and approved Sweden's application to NATO, which is going to go down as one of the biggest blunders for a Russian leader, basically since they failed to take over all of Germany's empire to become in control of the airspace and the resources in that region, and kind of
Finland. Didn't Finland join as well?
Yeah, Finland was before, and there was a big contention with Turkey, like not letting them in for a while, and then Turkey held off. They promised that they were going to let Sweden in when the application was ready to go, and they were going to apply. And Sweden asked Turkey if they were going to fight it, because you kind of want to know that ahead of time. And Turkey was like, no, you're all good. We're going to like thumbs up your application process. And as soon as the application was filed, exactly. Which is a big deal when you're being a NATO type ally. When you're an ally, you don't want your people to be untrustworthy. You want them to be trustworthy. And so what they were pulling was the old, like, you got to bribe us, which is very much like that region and the old school mentality of like, we're going to promise you something and then pull it back, yank the carpet at the last moment. And be like, now you got to bribe us, and then we'll renegotiate until to the point that we approve this whole thing. And so finally, and we don't know yet what Turkey is getting for Sweden being approved by them. A lot of speculation that there's F-16s being given to them, but that would cause a lot of problems if it wasn't used in only just in general, it would cause a lot of problems. But if it was used in any way other than a defensive manner for the nation itself inside the borders, or if Turkey was gonna like go and help whenever an ally needed, help from NATO. That would be awful if they used it in nefarious ways, the F-16 program. But we don't know yet. We don't know yet what they were given. It's a big deal, though, because now the airspace is definitely not going to be controlled by Russia. They have no chance to make, friendships and get control of the resources in ways that they kind of hoped that they would. That was one of their worst nightmares. And so Putin has definitely gone down in history as being one of the biggest masterminds of the biggest blunders of the Russian Empire, as he perceives it. He does perceive Russia as not yet being too late to rebuild a Russian Empire. That's one of his major
That's
goals.
over. That's over. That's
Right.
That's so over. I mean, look, Russia in and of itself. I mean, the landmass. They've got a lot of natural resources, man. A ton. I mean, hold on. Let me just check this out real quick. So hold on. Russian natural resources. Okay, so just off the top, coal, petroleum, uranium, copper, gold, iron, titanium. That's just off the top, dude.
Yeah, and those are how the oligarchs are made. Is like when the country gets broken up or a revolution happens and somebody wants to get power, they promise kind of these top people that are aligned with them, the new leader. They say, "Hey, I'm going to hand you the gold industry. I'm taking it away from whoever controls it right now in Russia or in Russia's interests." And you're going to now be like the president of the gold company of Russia. And we all know, how corruption works. Like, do they
check this out really quick?
Go ahead.
The most recent exports are led. This is Russia's. What does Russia supply to the world? The most recent exports are led by crude petroleum, $113 billion, refined petroleum, $81.8 billion, petroleum gas, $37.7 billion, coal briquettes, I don't know what that is, $19.1 billion, and gold, $19.1 billion. And on top of that, everything combined, crude oil, natural gas, coal, and rare earth metals, the resources are valued at $75 trillion.
That's insane. I can't even fathom that number. It's so large. Yeah, I assume.
And there's just a handful of people who control it.
Yeah, I assume that coal briquettes are what you shovel into steam engines to run turbines to send energy to whatever you need to send it to, be it like heating elements in homes or factories or developing power in traditional ways through steam type technology, trains, stuff like that. I imagine that's what coal briquettes are. So yeah. Another interesting thing.
Go ahead.
Another interesting thing regarding resources, as far as Russia is concerned, is that there's this history is like 40 podcasts worth of information, so I'm not going to deep dive into it. But they historically argue over whether Ukraine is theirs, belongs to them culturally or legally, and da 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 da. But the reason why, if anybody's never studied that region, the reason why that's historically one of the most important regions, it's not just a pride thing or it's a border thing. It's not just a border thing, which is important. Having protective allies like around your nation is like crucial to anybody who wants to be like a nation building person like Putin, where he wants to collect more and more nations to rebuild the USSR or obtain more power or protection for his own authoritarianistic goals. Ukraine has historically been the breadbasket of Europe. It produces so much grain because the soil is so rich that there were literally wars, like thumbs up, like stamped and approved, like war plans approved, because they would, in those war plans, say, look, we're going to use Ukraine as a source for our food to pay for everything in the war, to make sure our soldiers are fed, to make sure all of our citizens like don't go without, so that the opinion of the war stays positive. Like Ukraine alone was like kind of a guarantee that they had the resources as far as like agriculture goes, not just grains, but like agriculture in general. So like, we talk about minerals and coal and blah 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 in Russia itself, but like the agriculture in Ukraine is vital if you want to start being an expansion type authoritarian, and to not be well. And there's like there's the access to the waterways that you transport all of your stuff on, and you protect your waterways from navies and stuff on the southern, what would be the southern border, through Ukraine from Russia. And so that's kind of why he's been securing the eastern border of Ukraine, because it gives him access all the way down to the seaways to allow ships to be loaded up and protected by their armies and stuff. But that would also allow him access to the agriculture, to be shipped to different troops or groups like the Wagner group, and all sorts of like good controlling factors. So that's part of like their resource fight, is that Ukraine is not just like interesting to them historically and culturally, like it's interesting resource wise still to this day. So yeah, that's why he just like isn't walking away from fucking up, basically. I don't know if I can say that too many times without YouTube not sharing their video, but
No, no, they're going to be fine. So here's the deal with Ukraine. So coal, Ukraine has a significant coal reserves, particularly in the Donetsk Basin, in the eastern uh, part of the country. Coal mining is an important industry in the Ukraine, with the country being one of the largest coal producers in Europe. Iron ore, natural gas, oil, uranium, timber, agricultural land, like you said, mineral resources. And then it goes on to say it's worth noting that the availability and exploitation of natural resources can vary over time due to economic factors. That being said, Ukraine's natural resources have been historically significant to Russia. Natural gas, all the things we went over, energy dependence, coal and electricity, industrial cooperation, especially the industrial cooperation. Russia and Ukraine have had cooperation in various industrial sectors. But that being said, it's like you said. All of that being said, and with all of that, how can I say? All of that mineral and all of that wealth, all of those natural resources, as far as what it means to Russia's wealth. Was Ukraine ever Russia's land? I mean, was it ever Russia's land? Ever?
The answer is really complex, and it's not something I'm going to preface this by saying I'm not a professor. I have had limited amount of time studying this. I did watch like 20 something videos from a Yale professor about the history of Ukraine and Russia, as they relate to each other historically, and the answer has always been it's been a very complex situation. Like that's just the answer. There was the empire, of course, but even before the empire, it was ruled. Ruled is not the right word. It was populated by different groups of people, and they each had their different cultures. And we're talking both like religiously and like kind of just like you would think of like groups of like Jewish people, or groups of like traditional like Russians who like came in and spoke Russian, and people would speak different languages. There was Polish people there as well. And like the Polish people and the Jewish people would speak like Russian. They'd speak Polish, they'd speak, different dialects, but they'd speak multiple dialects usually, but they'd favor like one or the other. And there were always multiple dialects going, but usually the people in Ukraine also spoke Russian.
Yep.
And I think part of the reason they like to lay claim to it was because a lot of the Orthodox religion and the language being spoken there, by a lot of the people, that gave them a feeling, a vibe that like this is Russian land, when in fact that wasn't the case historically, even before like Russia had like any true claims like militarily or like even through religious political like power structures in there, because it was always being pulled back and forth through these kind of like fights going on, and there'd be groups. This whole revolution and different groups and subversive stuff and kind of like the idea of oligarchs has always been happening in Ukraine. And in recent history, um, I say that with like meaning hundreds and hundreds of years, not like thousands. In recent history, it's become a very popularized idea that let's call them, for lack of a better word, kind of peasants, like the people who are farming the land and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
As they watched other nations like the United States and France go through revolutions and have the people take over power there, they started getting the idea spread around of like a national identity of Ukrainians. So they were like ruled by kind of upper classes that were not Ukrainian really. They belonged to other groups, and they all of a sudden decided, hey, we're working your land. Um, it's not fair that we get basically none of the benefits off of working the land and you get all of the benefits. We want to not just get some of the benefits from working the land, we want to own some of this land. So
Right.
a lot of that happened in modern times too, hundreds of years, not just decades. And so Ukraine started to develop its own national identity, and then eventually it got it because of revolutions, you know, like with the USSR, the collapse of the Soviet Union, and then just like the decision to go towards being a Western type nation, or like Russia is an Eastern nation. It will argue with you about that, but the fact of the matter is, politically and physically, it is a mixture of like an Eastern and a Western nation. They hate it when you tell them that they're mixed with Western at all, but they are. That's why they fight against it so hard. Why it's such a big part of their warfare identity is to fight against the West, because the West has always pervasively kind of seeped in because of their physical location and who comes in and who you know lives inside of their lands. And so Ukrainian people started to develop this identity from the bottom up, where they were like, we need to, and eventually they did get a lot of the land pushed over into their hands, taken away from a lot of the upper tiered kind of what would become oligarchs. And so that's where you get like today this strong self identity, like self identified notion of being Ukrainian and fighting against an invader, even if it's one that they speak the language of naturally, where they know Russian, like, you know, you and I know McDonald's menu.
Well, it would be like us invading Canada, dude.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
We
totally.
speak the
We
same
speak the
language.
same language.
Yeah. And so the Ukrainians like didn't aren't newly fighting to become Ukrainian. They're actually preserving their old identity, because that identity was fought for and won a long time ago.
Dude,
This
check
is
this
their
out
land.
real quick. So I did a little research while we were talking. So all this goes back to like the 9th century, dude. I mean, like this is like they've been fighting about this for
Long time.
a minute.
Yeah.
And you know, the Cossacks, the Russian Empire, and the Soviet era, like during the 18th, 19th, and 20th centuries, Ukraine was part of the Russian Empire,
Hmm.
and they played a role in Russian literature, culture, politics, but they were Ukrainians first. I mean, in their hearts, you know what I mean? That's how they roll, you know.
Yeah.
So they played, you know, and as far as literature, culture, and politics, great, but they struggled for autonomy, you know, and basically their own voice and their own cultural preservation, you know. But like you said, 1991, I guess that's when Russia. That was the dissolution of Russia, and
Yeah.
that's what I think makes Vladimir Putin so hard pressed to get that part of what he calls Russia back, and now you're in a situation where he's probably not probably. There's a really good chance he's not going to win this war. And you know, here's the thing, dude. Here's the thing. When I hear people say things like we shouldn't be there, we should let. I mean, I really don't think people understand the significance of who Vladimir Putin is and what a the Russian mindset is. It's really amazing. It just, I mean, when you don't have the ability to like I don't know, how can you not have the ability, but when you don't do just the straight up research and try to understand why a citizenry of a culture and more than Ukraine being a country, it's the culture and the society that is surrounded by that culture. Um, a lot of people just don't understand. Like, why would I want that take? Why should I give that back to Russia? Why?
Right. Right.
Why would I let someone just take my freedom and say you're Russian when I know I'm not?
Right.
Hey, guess what? You're Mexican. No, I'm not Mexican. Hey, guess what? If we invade Mexico, hypothetically, guess what? You're now a part of the United States of America. No, we're not. I mean, this has been going on since time immemorial, but at the same time, not only do you have the cultural and the social part of um, the tragedy of war and what it means to be Russian or Ukrainian. Russia wins that war, it just keeps going, man. It keeps going. It's Belarus. It's the former Czech Republic. It's Poland. I mean, trust me, dude. You think Vlad stops at the end of the Ukrainian border? I don't think so.
Nope. No, not at all. I think like what's making him panic a little bit. There's a couple things. Is that he's got an election next year? I mean, that's if he decides not to stop the election.
No, if he doesn't get assassinated before then.
That's a possibility as well. But we know that we suspect, but I think mathematically we know that Putin has not run fair elections for quite some time. I think maybe the 53% one sounds like it was fair. It seems like a pretty close number.
Yeah, it's a pretty decent number.
But then you end up like getting like 98%, 110% voted for Vlad in these regions or whatever. And he's got this election coming up next year. But this war, we're allowed to say it's a war, but they're not allowed to say in Moscow, definitely not. But they're not allowed to say. Mm-hmm. And so you can't trust the polls you read about, like whether they support the war, because they won't even acknowledge that there's a war. But like that's going to affect the elections. But here's the deal: like I understand he's stuck in the mindset of authoritarianism, specifically because of where he came from and how he collected power. But it is so much safer for a nation in the long run if you do the peaceful transfer of power, like we almost didn't do. During this last election. And so handing over, that's why it's so critical. Handing over that peaceful transfer of power is part of what ensures that your nation is going to have enough stability to continue on down the ramp of like protecting your borders, not having so much volatility that things are going to get messed up. You're playing with wildfire. Now that benefits an authoritarian who wants to like change the borders all the time, who wants to invade other nations, who wants to like move the borders forward across where they were. But you also risk, like the USSR did, of losing massive amounts of resources and land and control. And Putin is headed the direction of destroying Russia even more than was destroyed when you lost the USSR. That's about as big as you can get. But as far as Russia's own borders are concerned, losing the amount of power that Putin himself, one man, has lost is going to go down in the history books as one of the biggest losses generally in modern times. So I'm not sure that if he really cares about also the safety of the people he cares about, he's got a big family. He's got kids. He's got people that matter to him. Um, if he wants them to be protected, it might be safer for him to let the elections go fair and to transition power and to move on to becoming a retiring oligarch himself. And then that would ensure the safety of his family members and stuff. So I don't discount the idea that he might secede. Like, he's getting old. We heard rumors that he's sick, that he's been sick with cancer or something like that. You can get over cancer. You can defeat cancer in certain cases. It's possible that he is going to go ahead and let the elections run and choose. I would not put it past him to choose and rig the elections for a successor in order to guarantee his safe exit so that he can move safely and ensure the longevity of his preferred candidates for future oligarchs and protect the safety of his family members. I don't know. These are guesses. These are thoughts in my head. I don't have the answers to these things.
No, I mean, oh God, I look at all the countries that the United States has propped up. You know what I mean? Panama, a lot of dictators in Central America. Let's just say dictators across the world. I mean, we've the CIA. Sorry, guys. Uh, have done a lot of really crazy things to make sure that the United States interests were and are well served, from colonial times to the construct, or better yet, from colonial times, from just the imperialism of Europe starting in the early 1400s or the mid 1400s to everything that's happened since. The construct of race in this country and across the world. Um, and the I would have to say, when it comes to Russia, they're as a country and as a nation, their inability, I think it's this simple, their inability to get it right. They've just never, ever, from what I can tell, just from a lot of the stuff that I've read, from the czars to Lenin to Marx to all of the presidents, Brezhnev, Nikita. Oh, what was his name? Oh, wait a minute. Let me see here. Russian presidents, 20th century. Yeah, so you're talking, like, hold on. So, give me a second here. So Vladimir Lenin, like Lenin, Stalin, um, Malenkov, Nikita Khrushchev. That's who I was thinking of. Nikita, Brezhnev, and Andropov. All of these guys, just they had this nation state that was full of all of this glory and people who participated because of the common good, quote unquote, of just being a comrade. You know what I mean? Because it was all for one and one for all. Nothing ever succeeded, and I don't think when people say, "Oh, communism doesn't work," I'm not going to say that. I think the human condition is what makes things work, and that's what we're literally going through right now in this country as ghetto birds fly over your house. You know what I mean? It's the same way, dude. It's the same way here, dude. Before the 4th of July or during the 4th of July, there was 30. There was a mass shooting in Baltimore.
Hmm.
30 people, 2 died.
Yeah.
30
Yeah.
people were shot, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, that being the case, and then on top of everything else, you know, when you're dealing with Russians, you know what they say: don't mess with Russians, dude. That's. Did you ever see that movie with Denzel Washington called Training Day?
No. No.
Dude, at the end of the movie, these Russians just hand him a nuke. It's
Right.
over. And like, then again, the most dangerous thing on the planet is an American Marine who's 19 years old with an M16. you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it just what however you think of Russia in it's a from what I've heard. I've never been there. I want to go someday. But from what I've heard, it's an unbelievably, like, just beautiful place.
Yeah.
Like the architecture, the history, but behind all of that, there's just this really really low energy of like what it takes to accomplish, you know, being who you want to be, being this amazingly well run nation state whose people aren't starving or aren't we're not starving, dude. You know, there were yeah. Needless to say, as much as it kills me sometimes, there's only one USA, bro.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot, and I'm stepping out of my depth, but I'm just going to give my like limited perception on the whole thing. Um, in my opinion, a big portion of where they have stepped, you said they get it all wrong all the time, and I don't have enough like cultural and historical knowledge from their perspective to give a call on which things could have gone worse than what they did. Maybe they did the best job they could at certain times, but
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of their problems did come from the Orthodoxy Church being so integrally tied to the power structure. I mean, the church ran the nation state, therefore controlling the military, therefore controlling the people being like slaughtered, put in gulags, thrown to Siberia, all of that stuff. I mean, this is like not how a church is supposed to be run, right? Like, you're not supposed to be the ones dealing out the punishment of the state, theoretically, in modern times. And because this power structure has been historically like not accepted, forced on them, and that's how you maintain power and how you emulate power or restructure it in the face of, or like restructure it to look like the old one, so that it's not such a big change that people accept it. I feel like they've continued this strongman ideal with to their detriment, so that they continue to screw over the people who are supposed to be served by these nation state / even religious systems or whatever. And it's become more of a strongman thing and an oligarch thing that's supplanted the religious ideals. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Orthodoxy still has massive control over the Russian state, but Putin like works with them now instead of like controlling them.
And not
Putin is
only that,
definitely not.
dude, they were cheaters. They were just, dude. Okay. In the 70s, in the Olympics, these women would walk out. Dude. They looked. Oh my God. Dude.
I remember the jokes. I remember the jokes.
Bro,
I
dude.
remember the
So
jokes.
there's a world record that was set in 1977 for the 400 meters. She ran it in 47.6. That record is 50 years old.
Yeah, that's crazy.
No one's even come close by like a second and a half, maybe. Do you know how fast that is?
It's insane.
Dude, she looked, she had arm hair, Jesus Christ, dude. And the swimmers, and here's the thing. The crazy thing is, and you really got to look at it this way too, because I mean, the Americans would beat them. But a lot of the times, those East German swimmers, East Germany, bro, whoo, dude, dude, they just, they've, for, I mean, of their own doing, they've just put such a bad, just a bad name on who they are. They're just like,
Yeah.
well, blah, 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 the East Germans, oh, no, I don't want to deal with them. Oh, the Russians, this is, dude, and we knew, everyone knew until they started doing the drug testing. And then,
Right.
nope, that record doesn't count. Nope, that record doesn't count. No, you lose your gold medal. No, you lose your silver medal. Are you kidding me? Like, for days, bro. And so, not like we were any better, because there were times when people cheated here as well.
Yeah.
But it was a situation with East Germany, Russia, Bulgaria, Poland, all the back then, which were all the Eastern Bloc companies, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, all those countries, bro. They just, like, you knew if someone put like an amazing amount of weight over their head, when they had muscles coming out, like either like their traps were all the way up here. It was just like, come on, dude, come on. But now it's, it fell once it came back from, once it went from communism to some kind of free market society. I don't even know if you want to call it that, but
Well, it wasn't communism either. It was, again, kind of the oligarchy
yeah,
state where there was no true ownership of the means of production by the
they
people.
called it that, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So
they called it communism. Yeah.
yeah, but it didn't. Same way with China. China's a free market society. It's not. It's like you said. It's ruled with an iron hand by one person. But it's a free market society. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they
Yeah.
call that communism, which it's not. At
Right.
least now. But it's just, yeah. There's so, like, I mean, like you said, we could dig down into this every week, on Russia especially. You could start from inception of statehood as a country and just go all the way through it. But again, the reason we're talking about Russia and Putin is because they've been our nemesis for 70 years.
Yeah, yeah, and if we got involved directly, so we're involved. We're sending, like, missiles and tanks and all sort of people too, but
Yeah,
not like troops. We're not
no,
sending like platoons. If we actually started putting boots on the ground in the traditional way, everything would change, and there is no guaranteeing what the outcome would be, whether it be better or worse or detrimental to the planet. We have no way to control that because things are so complex. So that's part of the
yeah,
reason it's so important that we try to stave off overreaction for as long as we can. It's not just, but in part also because it is advantageous. And I know people have arguments against this, and it sounds evil to say that, like, throwing some of, like, 2%, 3% of the military budget to Ukraine in order to kill people, both Ukrainians and Russians, is cheaper in the long run for Americans. We don't kill off a lot of Americans. We don't spend a lot more in our military budget and our actual like supplies and whatnot. Yes, that is a benefit. Proxy wars, like, are evil, but they also have major benefits. But there's, more importantly, we can't predict. There's no supercomputer that can tell us what the ramifications would be if once we set platoons on the ground in Ukraine to fight Russia. The ramifications of that might literally be World War III.
oh, dude, he
So
pushed the button. Can I be honest? If we When we get after something, I mean, if we really got after something, like if we really went into, dude, if we really went into Iraq or Afghanistan or any of these, if we really went into Vietnam and just and just and just did it up, we didn't do that.
no. Mm-mm.
No, we didn't do that. I mean, I think at this point, as they say, if you're going to point the weapon at someone, well, you better fire.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's
So
right.
at this point, yeah. So at this point, if you're going to get into something like that, you better go all the way.
Hmm.
Just or don't go at all, man. Don't go at all. So, yeah, no, I mean, dude, it's just it's like, oh, it's World War III. We're going to start. No, Vlad isn't pushing that button, dude. Vlad's not going to push that button. He knows better. He knows better. Nothing's going to. He is not going to make the world a better place by pushing a button.
No, he's certainly not. That's never going to make it better.
You know what I mean?
Once that button is pushed, I mean, I'm not going to say everything's over, like all humanity dies, but like life as we know it and the future as we think it's going to unfold, nope, that's all. That's all gone. It's all going to be completely different.
All it takes is one little tweak to an already tweaked situation, like Trump getting elected.
Yeah, we saw that.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well, what to make an even smaller point, RGB not retiring underneath a Democrat was something that had the biggest
Oh, big
ramifications that
time, dude.
we've never seen since. I
Big
mean that,
time.
yeah. So one person's small decision can absolutely change the entire world's history.
I think it all plays out. I actually don't know how it's going to play out, dude. I just can't see. Okay, you know, given the the uprising or the not the uprising, but the war, quote unquote war between Ukraine and Russia, and everything else that's going on in the world, along with the uh, just the type of sentiment that the white Anglo-Saxon or the white nationalists have in this country, and those who who might not say, "Oh, I'm not a racist" or "I'm not a white nationalist," but don't even like. I always this is just, okay. This is the one thing I always say. Oh, dude, I'm not a racist. I don't, and I don't. This my none of my relatives or none of my people back in the day owned slaves. I'm like, dude, I get it. This isn't about. No one wants to be a victim, dude. We're not saying I'm a victim. That's not what we're saying. What we're trying to say is what the Ukraine is saying. They were just sitting there one day and they heard, "You need to come with us." And they were like, "No, I don't think that's going to happen." Well, when that happens to you, you're not going to be ready for that. You're not going to have allies. You're not going to have NATO. You're not going to have any. This is, dude, people don't think critically. They think with their, they think a lot of people are like, well, the numbers say, dude, the numbers don't mean anything.
Right.
Like tactically speaking, numbers don't. Everything that's ever happened in this country or just in the evolution of humanity has been based on human nature. Period, dude. You could say this, that, you could use whatever number you want to. It doesn't matter. When
Yeah.
you dig into the historical fact, especially over the last, let's just say, I would say since medieval times, since like the 12 and 1300s, since when the entire Black Plague thing went on, and women with cats were living because the cats ate all the mice, and oh, you're a witch because you're yes, that's how people think, bro.
Yeah.
That's how
Yeah.
people think.
I suspect earlier than that, we just don't have a great deal of knowledge, thanks to the Library of Alexander burning down and
Yeah,
inability to interpret and lost texts from the Egyptian society, which, like, the last Egyptian society that built pyramids is closer to today than they were to the beginning pyramids that were built
Yeah.
in Egypt. I mean, huge amount of time where there could have been uprisings and revelations and just people deciding
What
they're
about
not
all
going to
the
take it.
African nations? What about all the African cities that were like you know, from what historians can just somehow come to terms with? Like there were like nation states and city states in Africa that were supposed to be like out of this world. Like
Right,
all of that. Yeah, where's that history?
right.
It's burned to the ground, dude.
It's gone.
It's
Yeah,
gone. I mean, where's the history of? Luckily, the Incas and the Aztecs and the Mayans, left their history behind. But like I yeah, I feel for the Ukrainians. I feel for them. I feel, I mean, like, they didn't treat the people, they didn't treat like people who were trying to get out of there like Africa. I'm sure you've heard about that. Like the Africans who were trying to get out of there, they were giving them a really hard time, like people of color. But dude, I mean, if you're sitting and all of a sudden my apartment's getting bombed and my house is getting bombed, and yeah, dude, the Russians have a, you know, I mean, Germany got the hint. They're like, okay, no, no, not, you know,
yeah,
they were like, they took the hint, dude. They're like, no Nazi flags. You're never
right.
gonna bring that guy's name up again. If you do, you're going to jail.
Yep.
And Germany was like, dude, because Germany, dude, once upon a time they were just chilling.
Yep.
Before World War One, they were just like, all right, whatever. And
Yep.
then World War One happened, and they lost everything.
Hmm.
Everything. And then that dude with the little mustache comes along and says, "Bro, how does one man with a small little mustache take a country?" And think of it this way: if he hadn't gone to Russia in the winter, no,
Right.
if he hadn't gone to Russia in the spring and got stuck in the mud, because
Oh,
that's
right. There was the mud. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That first, and then it was over. And dude, if he'd have just stayed away from Russia and just let Stalin do his thing,
Yeah.
we'd be speaking German, dog.
Yeah, yep. And that also was part of Putin's mistake. He thought he was going to roll them over in like a couple months, and he actually gave himself that timeline because what happened a few months after a lot of fighting back from the Ukrainians that worked. Spring came, and their fields thawed, and those tanks got stuck in the mud.
That's what happened, dude. You know, and then how in God's name would you want to fight in a Russian winter?
I don't know. Don't know.
You know what I mean? Like but those are some. I'm telling you, man, those are some hard people, bro.
Yeah.
Those are some
Yeah.
hard people.
I really loved the pervasive in the beginning of the Ukrainian war. Don't love anything about war, but I did love seeing the old ladies telling the soldiers to put sunflower seeds in their pockets, so at least they would sow the fields with sunflowers when their bodies were decaying and enriching the soil. Those are some hardcore mother effers
Dude,
to.
I'm telling you, dude. See, the thing is that other than Pearl Harbor and 9/11, we've never had any real. Come on, man. Imagine there's 30, 40, 70,000 troops on American soil. Imagine the North Koreans just start coming out of the sky with in parachutes.
Yeah.
Imagine that, dude. I mean, it's and the one thing that I'll never forget is the look on the faces of people in Panama when we were driving when we were driving through Panama. These people were looking at us like we were like ghosts, not ghosts, but I don't know. They just had this look on their face, like what are you guys doing here?
Yeah,
Like,
bewildered.
yeah, they were very bewildered. This is 1987. This is like a year and a half before um, the invasion of Panama in 1989. Crazy,
Yeah.
crazy. You
Yeah.
know, like, that's what we do. But that's what we do.
Yeah, I mean, there are people who definitely think that we messed up by in '91. Well, it'd be like more like '94, but starting in '91, not positioning troops throughout like Eastern Europe and all of the countries that were going to be in contentious fights about power as the Soviet Union collapsed, in order to make them favor transitions. I mean, you talked about CIA shit earlier, basically that, not making them more democracy friendly, and instead we went hands off and just kind of let what happened now happened. I'm not sure that would have turned out better based on what we tried to do in Iraq and Afghanistan. You can't predict the results of trying to implement democracy, especially when there's a long, rich history of corruption, oligarchy, religious control, that kind of stuff. But I do understand the idea of saying maybe it would have turned out better if we had tried to turn them more towards democracy. Can't promise that would have worked out how we think it
Well,
would
it's the
have, though.
same thing with Bush won in Desert Storm. If he'd have finished that war, we wouldn't have. I guarantee you, we probably would not have had a 9/11.
But we mission accomplished it.
No. I'm talking about his father.
Oh, his father. His
Yeah.
father. Sorry.
In 91. That too. Yeah, mission accomplished. No, not really. But in 91, if Bush Senior
Yeah.
finishes that war, because
Yeah.
what did his son say? I'm going to finish what my father started.
Yeah, which was
And
super scary.
yeah, it was really scary. And so we're like, what? Wait, what? Like, and so that's what I mean. If you're going to do something, I don't know, man. It's like a lot of the guys. Okay, so I went in the Marine Corps in '83. So a lot of the guys that I was in the Marine Corps with, who'd been in like 10, 12 years, were all Vietnam vets. And they were like, dude, all we had to do was just turn it up. They're like, oh, that's what they told me. They were like, all we had to do is just, if we'd have turned it up and just, there's like, there is, but what can you do? What can you say? How can you go in some place and say, all right, well, we annihilated everybody, and now there's, because that's
we still believed in goodwill back then. I think we always use that as kind of an excuse for whatever decisions we're making in war. But hearts and minds, right? You're like, we're gonna do hearts and minds when we're bombing the shit out of people.
Oh yeah, they're gonna be throwing flowers at our feet. Jesus Christ. Oh my God! When they said, who said that? The guy with the glasses.
Was it Powell? Not Powell.
It wasn't Powell. He didn't want to go into it at all. He was a general. He knew what was up, dude.
Right.
It was well,
Powell, not as good a guy as his obituary would make you believe.
No, he wasn't.
He was in with the whole gang, but he seemed like the most reasonable out of all of them, which isn't saying a whole lot. So
yeah, they were. Yeah, I've known. I knew a few officers like that in the Marine Corps that were just blah blah blah, sis boom bah. But then again, like, then there were a couple of my, of my commanders, company commanders that were like straight up, like they were like, we are going to find the enemy. We're going to kill the enemy. Good to go. Good to go. Yeah. Oh, yeah, dude. Yeah, we're going to find the enemy. We're going to kill the enemy. And that's what we're here for. Good to go. Good to go. Yeah, dude, it's so, it's crazy, dude. And that's what war is. It's crazy. War is crazy. War
Yeah.
in the final analysis of things, it doesn't help anyone ever.
Yeah.
It doesn't help anyone. We won the war. Well, what did you win? What exactly did you win? Explain it to me. Well, I'm a white Anglo-Saxon. Well, no. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear what you won. I want to
Yeah.
hear what you benefited from this war as a human being. How did it help you?
Well, Rodney, we got cheap oil because we took over the oil fields in Iraq and Afghanistan. Oil is now like 30 cents to the gallon. Isn't that right? Somewhere around there.
I don't think so. I really don't think so. Hey, Billy Bob, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. No. Gas, oil? You're talking about gas, dude. Okay, I'll tell you when it was 30 cents to the gallon. About 1971. When I got my license, when I started driving at the age of 16, I think, was it 1975? No, it was 75. It was 75, yeah. Gas was, hold on, let me look. This is crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Hold on. This is crazy. Hold on.
I remember, I'm much younger than you are. I remember growing up, it was about 89 cents to the gallon when I started driving.
What was the gas price in 1976 per gallon?
Here is information from the
59 cents a gallon, dog.
Nice.
59. I could fill my tank up with $5, bro.
Yeah.
$5 would fill my tank up, dude.
Yeah. I remember $10.
You know what I mean? Like, I remember when it was 1994, and it was $1.01 a gallon in California. And I was like, it's the beginning of the end. And my wife was like, no, it'll come down. I'm like, nope, it's over.
Yeah, the rich people are going to opt to make less profits. That's pretty traditional.
And then what's going to happen is it's going to trickle down to us. You know, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then we're going to be rich because they're rich, and everyone's going to be happy. No, that's not what happened. Oh, Lord God, dude. Yeah, it's the whole Putin thing. I got mine. You got to get yours, and I'm not gonna let you get yours without a fight.
Right. So
yeah.
Let's think about like this for our future elections. Anytime somebody who is a populist candidate, for anybody who's not familiar with populism, it's basically just imagine that this person who is popular right now is telling you what you want to hear because most people want to hear what they're telling you. That's kind of how a populist candidate works. They're not really running on the needs of the people and with like intellect and putting together a core group of policymakers and actually instituting or like research to find out what would work and might not work and all of that. It's just they want to tell you what you want to hear. Populism is how Putin and all of these other guys maintain or gain and maintain power. So the next time you're wanting to vote, ask yourself, is this new out of nowhere candidate that all of a sudden everybody's liking? Is he popular because he's intelligent and seems to have the ability to put together a vast array of teams and research and policy, good policy with like some previous history of being able to be a policymaker? Or is this person well connected through rich people and saying things that you want to hear? Are they appealing to your emotions? And is that basically the brunt of it? If that's the brunt of it, you got yourself an oligarch right in front of you, and your oligarch is trying to get power.
There are a lot of them out there, man. There are a lot of them out there in this country.
Yeah,
there's just the entire Republican Party, actually.
Yeah, that's how they work now. That's how they work.
That's how they work. They're in lockstep with Putin, believe it or not.
Yeah, they love him. They love him. They think he's great. Yeah. They can't understand why we're and one Democrat right now. What's it? Robert Kennedy Jr. Is that right?
Yeah.
He self admits that when he grew up, he had like a Russian spy in his household, and he loved him. And to this day, he will tell you. He just said like live during his interviews this week that like he thinks we should stay out of the business of Russia invading Ukraine and shouldn't be messing with Russia or fighting against them. They should be our friends and kumbaya. Like that wouldn't come and bite us in the ass at
No,
all in
dude,
Europe.
they're bad. They're bad guys, dude. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
I don't love war. I don't love people dying. I don't love people, like fighting against nations. I wish we could all kumbaya. But Russia ain't becoming everybody's friend tomorrow.
No, dude, no. He's just saying things that people want to hear.
Yeah, it's propaganda.
Yeah, dude. Look, man. It's just like me saying there are good people on both sides. What?
Yes. That's exactly like that.
Oh no, man, no, bro. I've got some friends that are like, they might think that way, but they're good dudes, man.
Yep.
What?
Plausible deniability is the favorite tool of like racists and authoritarians.
It's like it's like these dusty conservative African Americans that think, yeah, man, I'm a conservative because of, I believe in this country and I'm not one of those black people that are like on the plantation. Bro, trust me. You will be put on the plantation if you slip up that much.
Right.
If you keep forgetting about what happened, dog.
Yeah.
Enough said.
Same thing with the LGBTQ is there's not a large but a decent a loud enough percentage who are saying we don't want trans people in our group. They don't represent us. We're with the conservatives on being anti-trans. Here's the deal. Same thing. If you decide to align yourselves with the conservatives enough for them to get enough power to do away with trans people somehow,
they're going to do away with you too.
You're the next on the chopping block. That's exactly how that's going to work.
Yeah. That's when you, if you have enough money, you get up and move to Portugal.
Yeah. You better hope you can make it.
Yeah. Or you move to Brazil.
Yeah.
Or you live on the Mexican border and you're gone.
Yeah.
And now you can't work.
Right.
You have no money.
Right.
You know what I mean? Well, what are we going to do? Well, you're going to do what the Jews and everybody else did in pre-World War II. You're gonna take it.
Fighting to be one of the special people that the Nazis believe in is it never works. No. Well, I'm a Jewish person in the Nazi party. Sorry, buddy, you're not actually in the Nazi party.
No,
You're helping them. You're helping them for sure.
And they're gonna lose because the bad guys in the end always lose, dude.
Yeah.
They always lose. I mean, that's why, when people ask me or, you get in these conversations about, empires, the only real empire there, I don't know, other than, the great African empires, which there were. But as far as the Western world is concerned, Rome, man, no one did it quite like them, bro. They were on it. No one touched them for almost 2,000 years, dude. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. Also very problematic. They also had many problematic.
They had a lot of problems. But dude, I mean, Great Britain, that long. Spain, that long. France, that long. I mean, Great Britain was at 40, maybe from like, let's say 1800 to like, 150 years. That was it.
Yeah.
That was it.
And
Spain.
And the United States would have only, well, I was just going to say the United States would have been like that too if the Confederacy had had more support, if they'd had bigger numbers, if they had done it more intelligently. Thankfully, they were too small.
Could you imagine that?
Yeah,
where would you and I be, dude?
Probably not existing. Probably wouldn't be alive. Not based on the timing. I don't imagine.
Yeah, not based on the timing. Really? Oh my god. Dude. Yeah, it's bad timing. It's like, bro, yeah. What, dude? Where are you, bro? I'm in Serbia. What? How'd your family get there? Well, you see, there was this little thing called the Civil War, and the Confederates won, and somehow my family got out of the United States. Blah blah blah, dude. It's
The
just,
what? The United what? Oh, there used to be this place called
this place is now it's called the man,
the
and now like,
Union and the
oh,
Confederacy.
whatever, the United Confederate States, and
Yeah.
and you're just like, so yeah, I mean the arc of, well, who said it was the arc of, as Martin Luther King said it. He goes, the arc of righteousness. What was it? Hold on, let me look, because it's a great. Hold on, Martin Luther King, the arc of righteousness. What is it? Hold on.
According to Obama White House archives, Martin Luther King Jr. reminded us that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Change takes a long time, but it does happen.
Yeah.
Change takes a long time, but it does happen, which is what those who are backing the inevitable losers should remember, but they aren't smart enough to know that they're going to lose. And it's not going to really benefit you the way that you thought it was going to benefit.
It's not, dude. It's not. I mean, like, well, black people they're gonna make us slaves, dude. We don't care about you.
Yeah.
We'll just leave us. Dude, I mean, hold on. Let me explain. Let me explain real quick. Let me see. Let me find this in my. I mean, this is. Oh, here we go. Hold on. Here we go. Hold on. Okay, so. Hold on here. Let me. Oh, here we go. So. Okay, I need AI. Okay, so I need a list of 10 black towns of the 19th century that are no longer here. And these they were just burned to the ground. So Seneca Village, which was in Manhattan, New York, that was basically at Central Park.
Right.
Okay. Africa Town, founded by slaves in Mobile, Alabama, in the 1860s. Nicodemus, located in Graham County in Kansas. Mound Bayou in Mississippi. Boley in Oklahoma. This is 1904. Allensworth in California, 1908. There's a much bigger list of. I mean, it's just
sure.
I mean, it's just. Well, why can't you people, pull yourself up by your bootstraps? Well, every time we try, you guys burn it down.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Uh-huh.
Like, how are we supposed to how's this supposed to happen when you guys just don't want us to have anything?
Yeah, which is why being laissez-faire about bad actors doesn't work. We can't just let Putin do what he wants. Anybody
he's
who's
a bad
saying,
actor, dude. He's a bad actor.
Yep, he's a bad actor.
I mean, and so is so is Donald.
Yeah.
So is Marjorie Taylor Greene. So is Lauren Boebert. So is Marco Rubio. So is
aspirations bigger than their knowledge of history, for sure. They don't have enough in here to know how to do well for the people of the future. They're just worried about their immediate gains, and that's it.
Who's that senator from Texas? What's his name?
Ted Cruz.
Yeah. Dude, you're a is he a Yale law grad? I mean, come on, man. So, and here's the deal, dude. There's a part of me That's like, should I? I won't even go into that. I'm just fed up with a lot of stuff, dude. That's all.
Well, I think we've got them down the right path. We've got these kids who are going to vote, like thinking about like geopolitical history and the future of Russian elections coming up in a year, maybe, and ours coming up soon as well. So
Yeah.
let's leave it there for now. And we're going to ramp back up into more and more political stuff soon, very soon, because we've got elections coming up, and the campaigns are going to start to whittle down. If we ever have debates, don't know if we're ever going to have debates for anybody ever again, but we'll start to let people know if we find out we're having any headway on the political progress to figure out who the candidates are. But in the meantime, we'll start talking about other interesting things that are all American micro. Don't know what yet. Do you have any ideas? Anything that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I want to talk about um, the just the social unawareness of people. Give you a great example. So I've been on TikTok for about 2 months now. I've got a couple thousand followers, and okay, that's cool. But I listen to a lot of these lives, like these. Basically, what they are is like mini podcasts. What the lives on. So, anyways, and some of it, I understand what's going on is serious, but these lives descend into chaos because not one person can actually talk over another person. So what we have in America, we are completely unable, not only as as an American community, to come together, but you really have to nuance and really try to understand what's about to happen in this country. You're going to have people who are white Anglo-Saxon Protestant or Anglo-Saxon Protestant Americans or Anglo-Saxon who don't believe in white supremacy whatsoever. You're going to have militant African Americans who don't believe in just don't believe in. Of course, they don't. How are we going to bring a community together of like minds who have the same affiliation when it comes to thought? And how are we going to prepare that? How are we going to say we're going to live together in harmony when we understand what human nature is, and we
Right.
understand that there's someone that always has to be in control?
Well, I mean, okay, so we could tackle a topic of something like where in the past have Americans been forced to come together? And of course, part of that is bullshit, like with the Iraq War or 9/11 and stuff like that. We can try and find good examples, like healthy examples where Americans came together, or maybe groups inside America. We can also talk a little bit about how things are not going that way, like how social media is now being pulled in under one umbrella under Zuckerberg because Musk destroyed Twitter either intentionally or not intentionally, depending
Dude, I
upon your
can't believe
theories.
that guy, bro.
That might be a good topic to talk about, like what's going to happen with social media and how it's going to affect the future of the American societal platform and how we talk and discuss and come together or get segregated more. That's going to affect our elections coming up. It's going to affect. It already has affected everything, like white supremacy and all that. So we'll think about it. We'll stew this over
Well,
and come up with a topic.
one last thing I want to, if I can find this real quick. I hope I
Okay.
can get rid of it. Where is it? Oh, come on! Don't tell me I. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I'll find it. It was a revolution of back in the late 1600s. I forgot the name of it, but it was about it's when white indentured servants and slaves came together.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, I mean, this is something that before race was ever a construct. You know what I mean? So yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, we can do that. We can talk about that when people come together. Okay. Well, thanks for anybody who made it all this way to the end of our podcast about Putin and Prigozhin and everything else related to that we could come up with in our brains. We appreciate you being a part of the American Micro podcast crew. You can go to his Facebook, our Facebook. You can go to just our YouTube channel and watch other videos. We're going to be ramping up a little bit of this, it sounds like, in the future, where we get on some streaming services. So look forward to that.
Very near. Yep.
Yeah. And then just subscribe, and thanks for chilling with us, guys. All right, man. This was a good one. Thank you so much. I will see you in the room. All right. You guys have a good evening.
Brother. Take care.